Bleach meets Naruto, the mad scientist who revolutionized shinobi warfare. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 66. The human body is too useless. The next day. In the technical development department. Here you are, Shintaku. Orochimaru's eyes were burning, and he was waiting for Nara Shintaku with eagerness. He was looking forward to developing new techniques. Curse Seal, Soul Weapon, Blood Limit Development Technique. After developing so many new techniques in a row, his accumulation has been exhausted. This is the shallowness of a human life of just a few decades. However, Nara Shintaku is different. This old monster has accumulated a foundation for who knows how many years, and his inspiration will hardly be cut off. Orochimaru looked at Nara Shintaku with burning eyes. Your eyes, take it back. Nara Shintaku threw 3 scrolls over with disdain. Orochimaru smiled and couldn't wait to catch them. What kind of technique will it be this time? A deeper sealing technique? Or yin-yang escape? Or further development of natural energy? With excitement and expectation, Orochimaru flipped through the 2. Just a glance. His eyes were glued, staring at the words on the scroll, almost unable to open his eyes. Life shell creation technique? You actually want to create a human body? This is a forbidden area for life. Orochimaru was so excited that he trembled all over. It was like an electric current running through his body, causing goosebumps on his skin. Ninjutsu research will eventually lead to this step, won't it? Nara Shintaku smiled faintly. Pursue life and explore the origin. If you don't even understand yourself, how can you move forward? Only by grasping yourself can you grasp more things. These words. Orochimaru's heart was surging, and he was very excited. He agreed very much. The road of research will eventually lead to exploring one's own field. This is inevitable. It is a level that must be crossed on the road to progress. I just didn't expect it to be so fast. Orochimaru smiled absent-mindedly. Many of my peers of the same age, 937, are still working hard to practice ninjutsu and strive to develop new chakra attributes. And I have already completed the road of ninjutsu. Start a new journey. When Orochimaru said this, his expression was full of deep emotion. One step faster, every step faster. Nara Shintaku smiled. Isn't it normal? You are right. Orochimaru nodded. He took a deep breath, calmed down his emotions, and seriously agreed on the contents of the scroll. Plus 5%, 20 minutes. 30 minutes, an hour passed. Orochimaru just finished reading the first scroll, exhaled a long breath, his eyes tired and excited. He said, I'm afraid it will take me some time to finish reading it all. How about in the afternoon? Let's meet again in the afternoon. This technique has a very different idea. Orochimaru needs some time to understand the meaning of the steps. Okay, see you in the afternoon. Nara Shintaku heard this and turned to leave. Walked out of the laboratory. Nara Shintaku thought for a moment and did not leave the base. But went to the ordinary cell. In the cell. A young woman with dark green hair and orange highlights at the end of her hair sat in the corner with her legs hugged. Master Shintaku. Master Shintaku. The guards saluted one after another. Yes. Nara Shintaku nodded and walked to the front of Yitsong's prison, smiling at her. Are you used to living here, Yitsong? Do you need a new mat? Hearing the sound. Yitsong's body trembled, looking up at Nara Shintaku, a deep fear flashed in his eyes. But soon, fear turned into anger. I must kill you. Yitsong glared at him, sternly speaking. Very good. Nara Shintaku smiled with satisfaction and nodded. Keep your current appearance, it will help you recover your mental state quickly. Otherwise, I am worried that when Sand Shinobi pays the ransom, it will not be a scorched-style Yitsong who will be taken back, but a useless Yitsong. After that, Nara Shintaku turned and left. He still cares about Yitsong. Not for anything else, just don't want to add trouble, there are enough women around. Yuhi, Kurenai, hand. +1 from the Nara clan, 1 from the Yamanaka clan. In addition, Sarutobi, Hyuga, and Uchiha are also ready to move. There are too many. 7 days a week, 1 a day is not enough. Forget Yitsong. Nara didn't know that after he left the cell. The anger in Yitsong's eyes faded, and suddenly, there were splashes of water, as if they would draw silk. She curled up in the quilt, her hands hesitated, and finally couldn't help but stretched between her legs again. Afternoon. Nara returned to the laboratory. Here you are, Shintaku. Just like the opening remarks in the morning. Orochimaru looked at Nara with a smile, and said impatiently, let's start. Okay. Nara nodded. The two began to think directly. Constructing the body is the ultimate goal, let's divide it into small goals. The first step is to construct the limbs and torso. And the limbs and torso can be subdivided into skin, muscles, bones, blood vessels, ligaments, nerves. Although there are more than these in the limbs, these are enough. What does it mean? It means that it can be used. For example, my right thumb, its function is to hold the fist. As long as you can hold the fist, it doesn't matter whether it is a thumb or not. In fact, if it weren't for the sake of shocking the world, I would have wanted to abandon human arms. The human body is crude and low in function, and it is too difficult to use. Hey, what you are saying now is very dangerous. So the general outline of this technique is, create a body that meets our needs. The appearance of this body is not important, the shape is not important, and whether it is a human is not important. What is important is whether it can meet our functional needs. Yes, that's it. Well, now the problem is, construction, and, rejection. Yes. Nara Shintaku nodded. Orochimaru thought for a while and said, how to construct? The simplest way is to mirror copy the left and right. For example, if a person's left hand is broken, mirror copy his right hand. Nara Shintaku said. What a rough method, no technical content. Orochimaru complained. So the second way is to study big data and set up a regression equation. Nara Shintaku explained, the proportions of the human body, arm length, height, weight, leg length, etc., all have subtle relationships. We can collect a lot of data and sort out a calculation equation from the data. Orochimaru frowned. It's a big project. What else? Nara Shintaku shrugged, isn't scientific research like this? It makes sense. I just recruited a group of students. Orochimaru touched his chin and pondered. The two smiled at the same time. A group of free labor. After laughing, the two continued to discuss. Why can we build an arm by building blood vessels, nerves, ligaments, bones, muscles, and skin? Because of the human body's compensatory mechanism. What do you mean, Shintaku? Blood vessels, nerves, muscles, etc. will grow and improve spontaneously. Can it be like this? Yes. Hiss, it seems that I need to make up for the knowledge of the human body. When building, how to make a design drawing. It's still big data. You mean, a lot of dissections to master the three-dimensional map of human limbs? Yes. In the previous life, the university researchers treated students like cattle and horses? Nara Shintaku inherited and carried forward the excellent tradition. After obtaining the design drawings, use yin and yang escape as a means of construction? Yes. Why not use living cell directional induction? Let's not talk about the difficulty and consumption of directional induction. Have you forgotten the rejection reaction, Mr. Orochimaru? Will autologous cells be rejected? Yes, don't think the immune system is too smart. For example, if one eye is damaged and dies, if it is not removed, the immune system will attack and destroy the healthy eye together. There is more knowledge to learn. Wait, when using yin-yang dun, don't you have to consider rejection? You're already using yin-yang dun, why do you still have to consider it? It seems to be right. It's not like, it's right. The limbs created by yin-yang dun are essentially dead objects, which need to be slowly assimilated by the recipient before they can eventually become part of the body. Oh, so this is why you deliberately didn't add activation to yin-yang dun. What else? I thought it was too difficult and involved the spiritualization technique, so you deleted it directly. I'm not writing it for other people to see. I wrote it for you to see. Do I need to worry about the difficulty? Haha, thank you for thinking so highly of me, Shintaku-kun. The discussion between Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru lasted until late at night. It was mainly Nara Shintaku who was talking and Orochimaru who was listening. This technique is not only difficult, but also requires a lot of prior knowledge. Just the first step, constructing the limbs, requires a lot of research data and sorting out regression equations. The second step is to construct the internal organs, and the data required is exponential, and the human body's internal circulation system must also be considered. The final version, to build an independent genre. The difficulty is sky-high. But Orochimaru is even more excited. I am not afraid of difficulty, I am afraid of having nothing to do. I will digest it and supplement my knowledge, and then officially recruit students in 7 days, how about it? Orochimaru asked. Okay. Nara Shintaku agreed. Outside. The information that the technical development department officially recruited students was like a stone that caused 1,000 waves, instantly causing a sensation in the Konoha elite circle. Everyone became enthusiastic. This is the department with Orochimaru and Nara Shintaku. You can tell that there is a bright future as soon as you hear it. However, those who have just heard this news are already out of date. Those who really have connections have already contacted Orochimaru in advance and entered the first batch of students. Damn it, I just found out about this disappearance now. Almost all of them have been taken by the ninja clan. Damn big families. Alas, we can only wait for the next time. Don't be too discouraged, the barrier class, medical class, and Umbu all have recommended places, we still have a chance. Yes, and the recommended places in these 3 departments are very valuable. The ninjas are not discouraged. Because there are many opportunities, this is just the first batch of students. Subsequently, there will be the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th batches. And not only the ninja clan has channels, ordinary ninjas also have the opportunity to become students. Many people began to study hard because of this. Swear to get the next student quota. At the same time, the first batch of students are preparing to join the technical development department. Uchiha Tribe Land. A beautiful, dignified, and gentle girl sat at the table, looking at a pile of medical books and sealing knowledge like a small mountain. Her expression was dull and her eyes were desperate. How can I finish reading this? Mikoto hugged her head and cried out in despair. She sighed, stood up and walked to the floor-length mirror. Looking at the graceful girl in the mirror, wearing a suspender, revealing her snow-white shoulders and straight long legs, she couldn't help but cross her arms. This body has grown tall and outstanding without realizing it. It would be better if I could just seduce her. Mikoto looked at herself in the mirror. One end of her arm was squeezed full, and her snowy skin was so beautiful that people couldn't look away. What a perfect shape. What a pity. As a lady from a noble family, she usually has to hide it tightly. Who will be the first person to enjoy it? Mikoto looked at her own grooves in the mirror and sighed. She looked dignified and quiet on the surface. In fact, her inner character was very bold, like a tomboy. As for the affairs between men and women, she had secretly read a lot of bad books. Mikoto could already look at it calmly. Oh, I really want to lie down and let Nara do whatever he wants. I will feel relaxed and the family will be satisfied. Mikoto looked dejected. What a pity. I can't do that. In order to make him stick out, I don't want to work hard to learn knowledge that is completely useless when I'm having sex. I give up. Is it so troublesome to send a woman now? After Mikoto vented his emotions with a series of complaints, he returned to the table and continued to read. In a single dormitory. Namikaze Minato looked at the books on the table and calculated in his heart. Stay up for 3 days. No, 5 days. I should be able to finish it, right? Fortunately, I have some foundation, otherwise, I really can't finish it before entering the technical development department. Minato sighed and poured a cup of strong coffee. Smelling the mellow coffee, Minato couldn't help but feel sick. He drank too much recently, starting with 5 cups a night. If not, he couldn't stand it at all. Let's die. Minato closed his eyes and drank the strong coffee in one gulp as if he was ready to die. Then, he cheered up and sold books. In the technical department. In an ordinary living room. Hiroha made a list of books for himself and ticked them one by one. There is only one last one left, I can read it tomorrow. 5.4-inch good, I should be able to cope with the assessment during the student period. Next, I can read some books that I am interested in. Hiroha showed a look of joy. Putting down the list of books, he found a book called Research on Human Meridians and flipped through it with relish. Compared with others, Hiroha is far ahead in the knowledge he has mastered. He is not worried about the assessment during the student period at all. 7 days passed. The Technical Development Department welcomed the first batch of 15 students. These 15 students, led by Hiroha, Namikaze Minato, and Uchiha Mikoto, formed 3 small groups. Hiroha represents the middle-aged ninja. Namikaze Minato is followed by outstanding young people among the civilians. Uchiha Mikoto is the representative of the ninja clan. How much of those books have you read? I only read half of them. You at least read half of them, I didn't even finish the first one. Me too, those professional knowledge give me a headache. It's over, I won't be sent back right after entering, right? I heard that those books are just the prerequisite knowledge for getting started. No way, don't scare me. Although they were divided into 3 groups, everyone was actively communicating. They complained to each other. Are those books hard to understand? Beilu looked at the painful expressions of everyone, and was surprised. Take your time, you can always learn it. Minato comforted everyone. Alas, we can only help out most of the time. Uchiha Mikoto sighed, but her eyes did not show any loss or disappointment. Because, her mission was not to do those difficult scientific research, but to deal with Nara Shintaku. Episode 67, Make a list of books and apply for human living research materials. I specially used a new perfume today, and I have been taking care of my skin and hair since last month. I am invincible now, even under my clothes, I can confidently say that it is either pink or red. There is no black at all. Uchiha Mikoto's eyes were firm and full of fighting spirit. Technical Development Department. The trainees waited for a while, and Nara and Orochimaru appeared. Swish. Instantly, all eyes fell on Nara. Orochimaru has been famous for a long time, and they have seen him many times. But this is the first time to see Nara up close. Is this 7 years old? So tall and strong. Maybe this is not Nara? What nonsense are you talking about? Didn't you see the iconic pineapple head? Everyone was surprised. Except for Namake's Minato, who had already known about it, and Hirako. Even Uchiha Mikoto was shocked by Nara's appearance. He looks at least 13 years old, right? Mikoto was shocked and suddenly a little panicked. She thought that she was 17 years old, and it would be easy for her to deal with a 7-year-old boy. But now looking at Nara, Mikoto was a little scared. Many people have children at the age of 13. If I take action, I will be defeated, right? A 13-year-old has the ability to do anything. Mikoto swallowed carefully. In front. Orochimaru coughed lightly, attracting everyone's attention, and smiled and said, "Before coming here, you have been told what to do in the technology development department, right?" "Yes, 15. All the students responded. "Well, according to the regulations, you will be given a basic test." Orochimaru said, waving his hand, "Follow the people to your examination room. This is an open book test, and everyone has the same books in their room. During the exam, you can answer questions as you like from the book. You can write as much as you can, but don't fill in the blanks randomly." After saying that, a ninja leader from the technical department came out. Everyone followed him when they saw him. Hiroyuki did not go. He had already passed the exam in advance. Enter the exam room. Everyone sat alone in a room, looking at the books on sealing techniques and medical ninjutsu knowledge on the bookshelf, and they were all shocked. 7322. All of them are important knowledge that cannot be found outside. Can you read here casually? Hiss, it is worthy of being the hottest department at the moment, the technical development department. I can remember 1 or 2 books here, and I have benefited a lot. With so many books to refer to, the exam must be difficult, right? Most of the students fell into distress after a brief surprise. They are not stupid. Those who can enter the first batch of students are carefully selected and have been warned by their elders. They know very well that staying in the technical development department is the most important thing. So, no one cares about the precious books on the bookshelf. Instead, they open the test papers as if they are facing a great enemy. In a room, Uchiha Mikoto was overwhelmed by the questions on the test paper. What is the principle of the blood groom technique? How should I know? I've only just started learning the sealing technique. Uchiha Mikoto grabbed her hair in despair. But she couldn't quit the exam halfway. She could only bite the bullet and read through the questions one by one, hoping to find the questions she knew. In another room, Namake's Minato was also a little tingling when looking at the test paper. Although he had the basics of sealing technique, he lacked medical ninjutsu. Even if he learned the blood groom technique, he could only use it without understanding the principle behind it. Is this test paper intended for us to learn the principle of the blood suit technique? Minato glanced at the test paper quickly and turned his head to look at the bookshelves in the room. He showed a thoughtful expression. The answers are all in the bookshelf. So, the test is about the student's learning and comprehension ability? I understand. He calmed down and answered the questions he knew one by one. Then, he looked for the corresponding books according to the questions he didn't know. Evening. 14 students walked out with dull eyes. As if they were squeezed dry. How do I know the difference between sealing technique and barrier technique? Why are there so many kinds of medical ninjutsu? I can't understand it at all. I read the test questions and learned for the first time that the blood vessels in the human body are divided into meridians and arteries. All the candidates were numb. Including Namake's Minato, he also looked dazed. It's just a blood suit technique, but it involves so much knowledge about ninja seals, medical treatment, and sealing. I don't have 2 or 3 months, I can't finish learning it. This is just a technique. In the distance, Uchiha Mikoto, on the other hand, looked calm and indifferent. Because she didn't know anything. Not only did she not know the test paper, she couldn't even understand the books on the bookshelf. So she gave up directly. Okay, everyone, don't be discouraged. You don't have a foundation, so it's normal to find the test paper difficult. Nara Shintaku came out and said to them, "Don't worry about being eliminated. Teacher Orochimaru and I anticipated this situation. We will arrange your study in a targeted manner." Hearing Nara Shintaku's words, the students were relieved. Many people handed in blank papers. They were afraid of wasting this opportunity and being driven back in disgrace. "Now, let's go eat first," Nara said, and then turned and left. Among the students, Uchiha Mikoto's eyes flickered, and she quickly chased after him, wanting to talk to Nara. But she didn't take a few steps. Just after turning a corner, Nara disappeared. Huh? Uchiha Makoto couldn't help but be stunned, pursed her lips, and thought it was not good. This Nara seemed to have seen through her intentions. He was hiding from her. It seems that I can only play openly. Uchiha Makoto sighed. It is impossible to give up. As a child of a big family, her mission is to marry. If she fails this time, she will lose her value. So, Uchiha Makoto has no way out. At night, Nara and Orochimaru casually corrected the test papers and gave the students grades. And according to the answers, they listed a list of books. This is for the students to read by themselves. Let's start teaching tomorrow, Orochimaru said. Okay. Nara nodded, no problem. The next day, in a meeting room of the technical department, 15 students stood nervously, looking at Orochimaru and Nara on the podium. Have you all received your test papers? Orochimaru glanced at everyone and said, I wrote a list of books for you. In the next month, your task is to finish reading your own list of books. In a month, we will start a ninjutsu development project. I will let you participate in this project. Orochimaru's words. All the students were surprised. Ninjutsu development? We can actually participate? That's great. I didn't expect that I could participate in such an important thing just after joining the technical department. Hey, don't forget the book list. My book list is so long, can I finish it in a month? The students whispered. Uchiha Makoto glanced at the desperately long book list in her hand. She remained calm and looked calm. It's just an excuse to ask for advice from Shintaku-kun. Hehe, I'm so smart. I just don't know if there are other coquettish bastards who want to compete with me. Mikoto narrowed her eyes and quietly observed the other students. She looked around but didn't find any for the time being. It seems that other people's tasks are different from hers. Have you finished reading these books? Namikaze Minato looked at the book list that was as long as his arm and breathed a sigh of relief. If it's just these, it can be done in half a month. At present, it seems that only the book list of Senior Hirako is about the same length as mine. He quietly glanced at other people's book lists. When he saw Hirako, he nodded secretly in his heart. Hirako's book list was also as long as his arm. Hirako Sr. is a strong opponent. Minato was full of fighting spirit. Little did he know. Hirako looked at his book list and was surprised. He thought to himself, the content of many books is beyond the scope. Orochimaru-sama and Shintaku-kun have different expectations of me? He thought of the day when Nara Shintaku personally invited him. I was suddenly overwhelmed. I can't let Shintaku-kun and Orochimaru-sama down. Hirako clenched his fists. At this time, on the podium, Orochimaru continued to speak. Everyone was quiet and listened carefully. In order to let you adapt to the rhythm of scientific research in advance, I will assign you a task. Orochimaru said with a smile. Task? Everyone's heart tightened. It's not a very difficult task. Orochimaru said slowly, I'm just telling you in advance about the ninjutsu that will be developed in a month. Your task is to learn the corresponding prerequisite knowledge based on this ninjutsu. In other words, I'm listing the key points of reading for you. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Orochimaru began to talk about the technique to be developed. This technique is called Life Shell Creation Technique. The inspiration and framework come from Shintaku, and I participated in filling in the content. Orochimaru introduced. Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but look at Nara Shintaku next to him. Shintaku again? They all had the same idea. This 7-year-old Nara Shintaku, as rumored, has a very high talent in developing ninjutsu. As terrible as a demon. This technique is temporarily positioned as S-level. Orochimaru talked freely and explained, the idea is to use yin-yang escape to create limbs of hands and feet, and connect them to disabled ninjas to restore their healthy bodies. Everyone was shocked. Creating limbs? Connecting to disabled ninjas? This technique is really important. Yes, I don't know how many seniors have to step down because of their disabilities. Can this really be done? Everyone couldn't help but get excited and discussed in a low voice. Namikaze Minato was also shocked and thought to himself, as expected of Master Orochimaru and Master Shintaku, they have developed highly difficult ninjutsu. If this technique is developed, I don't know how many tragedies can be saved. I will contribute all my talents to the development of this technique. Namikaze Minato secretly made up his mind. Next to him, after being slightly surprised, Haruha looked down at his book list and his expression became thoughtful. I see, no wonder I added books on yin-yang escape and anatomy. It's to prepare for this. It seems that this technique is not easy. A little further away, Uchiha Makoto's beautiful eyes sparkled and glowed, as expected of you, Shintaku-kun. Your eyes always look to places that ordinary people cannot reach. The blood suit technique is, the flying sickle technique is, and the soul armor forging technique is. This body creation technique is also. She couldn't help but be moved. If before, it was just because of the family's mission and the responsibility of being a child of a large family that she wanted to get close to Nara Shintaku. Now, it is Makoto herself who has the desire to get close. The Uchiha clan reveres the strong. At this time, in Makoto's view, Nara Shintaku is undoubtedly a strong man who tramples everyone under his feet. If you want to use yin-yang escape to build a suitable limb, you can't do without collecting information about the limb. For example, the growth of blood vessels, nerves, muscle groups, ligaments, bones, etc., how to construct them layer by layer. At the same time, we also have to consider that the limbs of different ninjas are different. For example, some people have long and thin arms, while others are short and strong. But the length of the limbs has a corresponding proportional relationship with the human body. We need to collect a lot of data such as arm length, leg length, height, etc. to calculate the regression equation. Orochimaru continued to tell the story. But the students below were already confused. 583. What blood vessels? What nerve muscles? What regression equation? I've never heard that developing ninjutsu requires learning so many things. Isn't it enough to learn 1 gen and seal and 7 nature transformations? Master Orochimaru, do we have to do everything you just said? Namake's Minato raised his hand and asked. Of course not. Orochimaru smiled and said, I will divide the life shell creation technique into different sub-projects, and divide the 15 of you into 3 groups. Each group will be responsible for one of the 3 sub-projects, yin-yang adjustment, 3-dimensional diagram of limbs, and regression equation. The members of the group will be assigned different small projects. Hearing this, the students still dare not relax, but their eyelids are twitching and they are in a panic. Even if it is divided into sub-projects and then into small projects, it is not something they can do. What a clever way of allocation. While participating in the project, different students can be trained accordingly. Surprise flashed in Bairuha's eyes, and he murmured, it can only be Shintaku-kun who can come up with such an excellent system. In his heart, Nara Shintaku's status is higher than Orochimaru. Because all the techniques developed so far are led by Nara Shintaku. In terms of talent, Orochimaru is not as good as Nara Shintaku. I hope that the project assigned to me is a simpler one. Uchiha Makoto held his forehead and sighed secretly. On the podium, Orochimaru raised his hand and gently shook his sleeves. Scrolls flew out of his sleeves and landed accurately in the hands of each student. This is the principle and structure of the life shell creation technique. You can take a look and officially participate in the project in a month. Anyone who is interested in any project can apply for it on their own initiative. Those who apply, just find Shintaku to register. Everyone immediately looked at Nara Shintaku. But after taking a look, they retracted their gaze. Apply on their own initiative? Forget it, they don't even understand the content of the project. It's better to wait for the assignment. Orochimaru, I'm sure he knows which project they are suitable for. Apply actively? Only Uchiha Makoto, his eyes flashed with joy, whispered to himself, this is a good opportunity. On the podium, Orochimaru said again, nothing, you can disband. If you need any materials, you can ask the logistics ninja in the technical department. If you want to go out, you can also apply to the logistics ninja. Orochimaru is not worried about leaks. When this group of students was confirmed, they had already arranged the spell binding and sealing techniques in their minds. It was Nara Shintaku who did it. Orochimaru expressed high trust. Now, disband. Orochimaru said, and left neatly. Nara Shintaku followed him. They have other things to do. Apply for living research materials. Because it involves human research, Konoha's top management is full of concerns. However, the general trend is irresistible, and the third Hokage cannot refuse. No one can refuse a bed for reattaching broken limbs. Episode 68, The Secret Teaching Between Student Makoto and Teacher Shintaku. But despite this, research materials are still lacking. To establish a regression equation, we need ninjas of different ages, genders, body shapes, and specialties, both male and female, young and old, as the objects of information collection. The data volume required is too large and difficult to meet. Mizutage-kun, is there a solution? Leaving the meeting room, Orochimaru asked Nara Mizutage. Nara Mizutage shook his head, there is no shortcut to piling up data. That's a pity. Orochimaru exhaled. A month passed slowly, in the technical department. The first batch of students studied intensively every day, and they were already in mourning. It's so difficult. I can't understand it at all. I want to vomit. My brain is about to explode, why do I have to read so many books? I'm reading books in my dreams now. The threshold for developing ninjutsu is too high. I'm completely convinced, Lord Orochimaru and Shintaku are gods. Yeah, I can't imagine how they mastered so much knowledge. Ninjas can only kill, how can they learn? Every student feels like they are living in hell. Even Minato feels extremely tired, and he goes out with dark circles under his eyes every day. The only one who is slightly better. Only Obiru is crying. He showed excellent learning and understanding ability, and his classmates were far behind him. Like a sponge. Crazy absorption of all kinds of knowledge, yin-yang escape, medical knowledge, ninja seal, nature transformation, sealing technique, and so on. It took only half a month to completely master the blood suit technique, but unfortunately, the practical level is limited. Although I learned the static blood suit and the dynamic blood suit. But I haven't made a valve. The above. They are students who are determined to stay in the technical department and study diligently. But there are exceptions. For example, Uchiha Mikoto. This one dresses fresh and elegant every day, with a ruddy complexion and full of energy. There is no sign of studying hard. Of course, if you don't suffer here, you can only suffer somewhere else. Dong dong, Mikoto took a bath specially, and knocked on the door of Nara's room with the fragrance of refreshing shampoo. Come in. Nara's voice came out. Yes. Mikoto took a breath, opened the door and walked in. In the room. Nara Shintaku sat on a chair, flipping through a scroll. Mikoto came in, and he didn't even lift his head. Bang, until the door of the room closed gently. Nara Shintaku looked at her, with a half-smile on his face, and said, in principle, I will not refuse any student's advice, but you always choose a time that will cause misunderstanding to ask me for advice. Every time you come, you wash and dress up, pretending to be attending a meeting. If you didn't come to ask for advice every time, you really had something to say, I would have kicked you out long ago. After saying this, Mikoto's heart tightened, and his expression stiffened slightly. Completely seen through, her little tricks. But you didn't refuse, did you? Mikoto suddenly smiled, and shouted in a light and playful voice, Teacher Shintaku. Because there is no point in refusing, Nara Shintaku said calmly, without you, there will be others who will come forward, so it's better to use you as a shield. Teacher Shintaku is so cold, it's really sad. Mikoto pretended to be wronged. Nara Shintaku was unmoved and said lightly, I have always been ruthless, so if you can't show your value, then after the shield is exhausted, you can go back to where you came from. Mikoto's eyes condensed slightly. She could feel that Nara Shintaku was not joking. Seriously. This shielding period is her only chance. I have a good appearance, a good figure, a non-competitive personality, and no ambition or aspirations. I just hope to be sheltered by a strong man and live a stable life. Mikoto took a deep breath and replied. Not enough. Nara's expression was cold and mercilessly said, your conditions are worth at least 800 if not 1,000. Not competing is just the threshold for entry. Mikoto's expression froze. She seemed to think of something and showed hesitation. After a while, she bit her lip, walked to Nara's ear, and lowered her voice, I have secretly read some books about men and women. I should be famous. It seems to be both before and after. Teacher Shintaku, do you want to help me confirm it? Mikoto exhaled softly, her breath was as fragrant as orchid, and her black and white eyes stared straight at Nara Shintaku. Nara Shintaku looked surprised. Uchiha Mikoto, are you such a bold person? You can even bring up such a thing? At the same time, Nara Shintaku had to admit that he was a little tempted, and really wanted to confirm it now, inside and out. Also, I can help you deal with the problem of family unrest. Mikoto raised his head and chest, confidently. Nara Shintaku couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Deal with family unrest? For example? Nara Shintaku asked. I am confident that I can make your woman live in harmony with you. Mikoto raised her chin and said proudly, I am very good at controlling women. She has studied these things specifically and is competent in this aspect. Nara Shintaku was moved. This point is also very attractive to him. Then I will give you a task. Nara thought for a moment and said, you know Yi-sung, she was hit by an illusion of mine and has a serious psychological trauma. You go and restore her to normal, at least on the surface. The scorched-style ninja? Mikoto was slightly surprised. Yes. Nara nodded and said, I won't give you any information. You need to collect everything yourself. I just want to see the results. No problem. Mikoto agreed solemnly. Well, if there is nothing else, go back. Nara waved his hand and was about to drive him away. Mikoto knelt down with a smile. She tilted her head and said, Teacher Jintua has been answering questions for us. Student Mikoto is very grateful and has no way to repay. I can only use a little trick to relieve the pressure for the teacher. As she spoke, the loose clothes tilted inadvertently. Nara's angle was not good and clear. The white and gentle face, slender neck, and delicate collarbone were completely reflected in Nara's eyes. Ahem, this is not good. Nara hesitated. He had never played such an exciting game. How could it be? Mikoto smiled slyly, showing her white teeth. Student Mikoto doesn't study hard and always thinks about other things. It's troublesome for the teacher. The teacher should discipline her well and let her suffer. Nara hesitated. It's come to this point, and it's not good to reject the student's kindness. Time quickly came to a month later. All the human research materials applied for were in place. The students gathered in the conference room. Orochimaru began to assign tasks. Team 1, Hirako is the leader, and the members are. Team 2, Namikaze Minato is the leader, and the members are. Everyone agreed with the assigned leaders. After a month of study, Hirako and Minato's talents were obvious to everyone. They are the most qualified to be team leaders. Team 3, Uchiha Mikoto is the leader, and the members are. Swish. Everyone turned their heads and looked at Uchiha Mikoto in amazement. The girl had a gentle smile on her face, her eyes were bright, and her temperament was slightly playful, but this playfulness was like the finishing touch, completely lighting up the girl. Just standing there, she was bright and beautiful. Miss Mikoto's words are very suitable. I agree. I agree. I have to support it. The leader of the third group should be Miss Mikoto. Very reasonable. Everyone nodded against their conscience, their tone was a little weird. If they really agreed and supported it, they didn't need to say it. But considering Mikoto's last name, it was Uchiha. The Uchiha clan at this time was very powerful. The first one, Uchiha Kagami, died and left a political legacy. The second one, Uchiha Obito, was accepted as a student by Minato, a direct descendant of the Hokage. The reputation is rising. Hikyu and Minato just looked at Uchiha Mikoto, with no change of expression. Yes, I will definitely work hard to take on the responsibilities of the team leader. Uchiha Mikoto also knew that her position as the team leader was not glorious, so she stood up and said seriously. Since there is no objection, then it is settled. Orochimaru said indifferently. He didn't care about the reason. Whether you go through the back door or rely on your own talents. As long as you can get to the right place, that's your ability. No matter what method you use? Start assigning tasks now. Orochimaru looked around at everyone and said, the first group is responsible for yin-yang escape, and the second group is responsible for the three-dimensional map of the limbs. Because the research projects of the two groups are strongly related, you must cooperate with each other and share progress. The third group will calculate the regression equation independently and report the progress regularly. After giving the task, Orochimaru took everyone to the laboratory of the technical department. The Life Shell Creation Technique project was officially launched. This day. For the first time since its establishment, the Technical Development Department has been fully operational. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru stayed in the laboratory 24 hours a day. They have a heavy task. It is necessary to control the progress of 3 projects at the same time, summarize data and information, and correct the mistakes made by the students in their first research. The yin-yang escape team is progressing too slowly. What's going on with Hirako? It's understandable. Different biological tissues, such as blood vessels, nerves, bones, muscles, etc., will produce different degrees of changes in yin-yang escape when they are manufactured. But it will delay the progress. We need to urge them. Then urge them. Minato's progress is quite satisfactory. Not bad, but there are too many mistakes. The loss rate is twice as high as expected. Add more funds? Add more funds. Mikoto's team has collected data well. It's just collecting data. You don't need to use your brain. We still need to calculate the final equation. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru worked tirelessly to organize reports and summarize information. Anyway, with their current physical condition, it's okay to work tirelessly. In this way, half a year has passed. In the technical department, the first batch of students' eyes have lost their luster. Like a 007 who has been carrying bricks for years, the ox and horse have completely lost their passion for life, leaving only a tired body, mechanically executing daily project tasks. Unconsciously, staying up all night has become commonplace. I haven't slept for more than 5 hours in a long time. Every day, there is endless data to process, and my brain is going to explode. You are lucky, our team is rushing to meet the deadline, and the team members have fallen down 3 times on average. When will this kind of life end? Don't think about it, we have just collected the data, and we haven't started formal development yet. A group of students are desperate. Even the students in Mikoto's group are under so much pressure every day that they are all depressed and autistic. Collecting limb data, the amount of information is terrifying. fingers, palms, forearms, upper arms, joints. There are so many places to collect data for just one arm. Mikoto himself drinks energy potions every day. There was no time to accept Nara's secret teaching. In the laboratory, Nara and Orochimaru looked at the large amount of data collected in the past 6 months, as well as the report on yin-yang escape, and smiled at the same time. Women are used as men, and men are used as animals. It is worthy of being free labor, it is easy to use. It only took half a year to collect enough data to support us to develop the life shell creation technique. Orochimaru smiled happily. Nara nodded in agreement. No wonder the university in the previous life recruited hardworking students every year for scientific research. It turns out that it feels so good to use people as cattle and horses. With enough data, we can start. Nara said. Well, let's start now. Orochimaru nodded. For the two of them. With enough data, development is very simple. Because the framework has been complete for a long time. Different biological tissues such as blood vessels, nerves, muscles, ligaments, skin, bones, etc. were also divided and assigned to different cattle and horses to develop corresponding yin-yang escape techniques. Even the corresponding ninja seals were developed. For example, yin-yang lien blood vessel creation technique / regeneration technique / transformation village. Yin-yang escape technique, nerve creation technique. Yin-yang escape technique, muscle creation technique. And so on. It is essentially a technique, but because of the different degrees of yin-yang nature transformation, it has become a different technique. So, promised. Fingers, palm, forearm, hind arm, foot, ankle, calf, thigh, trunk, spine. One by one, human limbs were created out of nothing as Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru performed the technique. These humans disappeared and were neatly placed on the test bench. They all have flesh and blood and are full of life. At first glance, it seems as if people have misunderstood and come to a strange and terrifying human slaughterhouse. Nara and Orochimaru are evil butchers who dismembered humans one by one, like perverts, and placed them on the table in different categories for appreciation. Perfect construction. This is a human arm. This touch. This muscle layer. This taste. Orochimaru picked up an arm and put it on his face, showing a vivid pervert expression. Yes, we really created human limbs. If we create a head too, doesn't that mean we can create humans? This is a forbidden area for gods. Orochimaru's excited voice echoed in the laboratory. In comparison, Nara seemed calm. He had seen cloning experiments many times in his previous life. What's more, in the late Hokage period, creating a body is a casual thing for 6 paths. It's almost time. Nara reminded. Orochimaru was stunned for a moment, looked at the time, and then suddenly said, I almost forgot. It's time to give them the Anshan project. After that, Orochimaru made a set of ninja seals. Bye. The limb parts on the table collapsed like sand and disappeared into thin air. The two left the laboratory and went to the meeting room. Although they have been able to develop the life limb creation technique, the training of students is not over yet. They have to continue to arrange projects. Episode 69, the technique is completed. Mikoto quits the technical department. In the conference room, all the students sat in their respective seats, with their faces straight and serious. After the data collection was completed, Nara Shintaku gave them 3 days off. After the holiday, everyone recovered their energy and waited for the next project with full spirits. Although it was very tiring, they learned something real. After the students recovered, no one complained, but everyone was eager to try. I wonder what the new project is. Need to ask? It must be the development of ninjutsu. I just don't know how much we can participate. I will be satisfied if I can help a little. Me too. Yes, I learned a lot in just half a year of collecting data. Even if I don't stay, the knowledge I learned is enough for me to use for more than 10 years. The students were full of expectations. Hiruho and Minato also showed expectations on their faces, chatting and laughing with others. Only Uchiha Mikoto had a calm face, did not participate in the communication, but just sat quietly. She was secretly anxious in her heart. It was so difficult in the past 6 months, won't it be even more difficult when we start the official development? How can I keep up? What's wrong with this world? Is it so difficult to get into a man's bed? Uchiha Mikoto didn't even find a chance to meet the Scorched-style ninja Eat song. She was a little overwhelmed. She had lost a lot of hair because of staying up late to collect information in the past 6 months. If this continues, her beauty will be downgraded. That guy doesn't feel sorry for me? Uchiha Mikoto sulked secretly, obviously when I helped him before, I liked to play with my hair. Mikoto now just wanted to end it quickly. Finally tonight, Nara Shintaku couldn't hold back and did it to her. Then she was relieved. Eat, drink and have fun every day, maintain her figure, and occasionally serve Nara Shintaku, just like this, to enjoy life comfortably. Just thinking. Outside the meeting room, there was an undisguised sound of footsteps. Everyone stopped talking at once. The next moment, the door was opened, and Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru walked in. Orochimaru-sama, Shintaku-kun. Orochimaru-sama, Shintaku-kun. Orochimaru-sama, Taku-gun. Everyone stood up and saluted. Sit down. Orochimaru walked up to the podium with a smile, flicked his sleeves, and threw dozens of scrolls, which fell into the hands of the students. Some had more, some had less. I don't like to waste time, let's get straight to the point. Orochimaru said, the scrolls given to you are the knowledge you will learn next. I have already classified them. The first group, those responsible for yin-yang escape, must learn all the creation techniques of blood vessels, nerves, muscles, bones, ligaments, skin, and other tissues. In other words, I require each of you to be able to independently create a complete limb. Similarly, the second group of people responsible for three-dimensional composition, I require each of you to master the three-dimensional structure diagram of the limbs and torso and be able to draw it independently. The third group, Shintaku, and I have sorted out the regression equation. You are responsible for using the equation to calculate the data in your hands and see if there is anything that needs to be modified. Orochimaru assigned the tasks in a straightforward manner. Hiss. In the conference room, there were sounds of people sucking in air. Although they were mentally prepared, they still couldn't help but feel frightened when they heard the new tasks. Orochimaru-sama, does everyone have to do it? We're afraid, we can't do it. This difficulty is beyond my ability. Orochimaru-sama, you think too highly of me. The development of ninjutsu in their imagination was just to help Orochimaru and Nara Shintaku. But now, Orochimaru seemed to really want to teach them. This workload cannot be underestimated. Namake's Minato looked at the scroll in his hand and couldn't help but pinched his brows. Even if I work 18 hours a day, it will take at least half a year to complete. Have you learned all the limb construction techniques? Haruhu also frowned and said to himself, if I work hard, I may be able to complete it in half a year. The two have different opinions. But there is one thing in common, they both feel pressured. Before, Haruhu's team was responsible for yin-yang escape, and he was responsible for the construction of the neural network. In other words, he only knows yin-yang escape neural creation technique. Other blood vessels, skin, muscles, bones, ligaments, etc., are not known at all, and they are left to the team members to complete. But now, Orochimaru asked him to learn all the creation techniques. He was asked to independently create a complete limb by himself. The difficulty is terrifying. You have to know that different biological tissues have completely different shapes, textures, internal structures, etc. To master other creation techniques is no different from starting from scratch. Alas, I can only do it. Beiluo sighed slightly. Minato also sighed secretly. In the second group where he was, each person was responsible for different three-dimensional structures of limbs. You know, the internal structures of arms and legs are very different. He also had to learn again. Iglo. As for Makoto, she smiled indifferently, looking at the pile of scrolls in her hand, her eyes lost their luster. She was already numb. Don't have too much pressure. Even if you don't finish it, you'll just leave the technical department. Orochimaru said lightly. The students below suddenly looked stern. If they could stay, who would be willing to leave? Master Orochimaru, I will definitely work hard to stay. I promise to complete the task. I will only sleep 4 hours a day from now on. As long as you don't die from studying, study to death. Everyone said excitedly, and they almost patted their chests to guarantee it. The scene looked very motivated. Not bad, not bad. Seeing you are so motivated, I feel relieved. Orochimaru nodded with satisfaction. The trick of the heart talker monster is very useful. What is this trick called? Either promotion or leave? Researchers in colleges and universities have a contract with a term. When the term is up, they are either promoted to associate professors or leave. They are very motivated. It doesn't matter. Just be enthusiastic. Young people are prone to bursting with enthusiasm. Nara Shintaku watched from the side and was also very satisfied. He and Orochimaru are not babysitters. This life shell creation technique, once developed, will definitely have a broad market. Because 9 out of 10 ninjas are disabled. But Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru can't stay in the technical department all day and renew the limbs of disabled ninjas one by one. Where do they have so much time? They must pass it on and train a group of people who master this technique to be responsible for renewing the limbs. Anyway, they are the developers. Everyone will only think of him, Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru. I almost forgot that this project only lasts for 3 months. Orochimaru said with a smile. Swish. The students in the audience widened their eyes instantly. Some of them turned pale. Aina? Then I don't need to sleep? Orochimaru-sama, the time is too short. Yes, it's not enough. We can't finish learning. Orochimaru-sama, please give me more time. The students made a wrong sound. Minato was also shocked and thought to himself, only 3 months, I can only master 60% of the three-dimensional map at most. 3 months? Hirohu frowned, calculated in his heart, and muttered, if I use energy potions and nutrient solution every day, save time for eating, and reduce sleep time, I should be able to 18. But after saying this, Hirohu's face turned pale. And cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Although it can be done, if I really do that, the next 3 months will undoubtedly be hell. 3 months. Mikoto looked bored. She had given up. She surrendered. Scientific research was not something she could handle. It's not that we don't give you time, but we can't stop and wait for you. Orochimaru said leisurely. Everyone was puzzled. Because Shintaku-kun has completed the complete limb creation technique, you will explore the field of internal organs with me next. Orochimaru said with a smile. Fuck. Nara Shintaku's eyes twitched when he heard this. This snake is so good at passing the buck. It actually slipped the buck onto his head. Really, Shintaku-kun? You have completed all the limb creation? Data, shouldn't it take 3 days to collect? This is too fast. Everyone looked at Nara Shintaku, all surprised. Facing the eyes of everyone. Nara Shintaku's face was calm, and he answered slowly, this is the normal speed. Don't forget that the data you collected was compiled by me and Orochimaru, and we adjusted your progress in real time. In other words, we are simultaneously mastering the status of the 3 projects of yin-yang escape, 3-dimensional graph, and regression equation. CCFG, when the data collection is completed, we will naturally complete this technique. His tone was flat. As if it was a matter of course, he was talking about a trivial matter. The meeting room was silent. Everyone was speechless. It's worthy of being Shintaku-kun. He controls the progress of 3 projects at the same time. His talent is as strong as a monster. Bailuhu was secretly shocked in his heart. Minato was also extremely shocked, thinking, isn't this just saying that the technique has been developed from the beginning, but it just lacks data filling? Too perverted. I was only responsible for one of the sub-projects, and it was just a part of the sub-project, and it took more than half a year. But Shintaku-kun mastered everything from the beginning. Minato was shocked. His worldview was impacted. So it has been developed? Mikoto's eyes flickered, and she couldn't help but smile with ease. Great, I can drag my feet at will. Even if the project is not completed, it will not affect the development of this technique. In the next 3 months, I can play it as much as I want. Once the idea of playing it down comes up, the world will be wide. Mikoto didn't pursue staying in the technical department at all, she pursued staying with Nara Shintaku. Therefore, after hearing Shintaku say that the technique had been developed, she was completely relaxed. The reason why I give you 3 months is that according to estimates, Orochimaru and I can develop the organ creation technique in about 3 months. Nara Shintaku continued. The students were dumbfounded. 3 months? Develop the organ creation technique? They were speechless. Actually, 3 months is too slow. Maybe 2 months will do it. Nara Shintaku thought about it and decided to put more pressure on the students, so you hurry up. Hearing this, the students couldn't help but twitch their expressions. Speechless and choking. The complexity of the organs is far beyond the limbs. Obairu pinched his eyebrows, looking tired. I dare not even think about this kind of thing. I am still somewhat confident about the 3-dimensional diagram of the limbs, but the organs are really... Minato let out a sigh of relief and lost interest in talking. It may take him more than 10 or 20 years to master it. How many decades are there in a lifetime? Will you spend 10 years just for this technique? Minato stared at the ceiling with lifeless eyes. Orochimaru-sama, and Shintaku-kun, your talents are as high and boundless as the sky. We ordinary people can't even see the edge. It's better not to have the idea of catching up. Great! As expected of Shintaku-kun. Mikoto quietly clenched her white fist, cheering in her heart. Such a man must be held tightly. The future of a good life depends on Shintaku. Should we apply for secret teaching tonight to celebrate for Shintaku? Mikoto's thoughts have already flown outside the conference room. It has been a long time since she served Shintaku. I have learned many skills from books before, but I haven't put them into practice yet. I have to make Shintaku feel comfortable. In the conference room, the students were in mixed moods and the atmosphere was depressed. In short, that's what Shintaku said. Orochimaru smiled and said, everyone, come on. Group, human potential is endless. If you don't try hard, you don't know how far you can go. I look forward to seeing how many of you complete the task in 3 months. The students cheered up after hearing this. How can you know your limit if you don't try hard? Yes, Inch Tianren. I will definitely surpass my current self. Just wait and see. Let me create a miracle. Everyone responded with enthusiasm. Orochimaru's raised mouth corners could hardly be suppressed. This group of cows and horses is really good. Only Nara Shintaku secretly rolled his eyes beside him. After listening to the chicken blood method from me, you copied it directly and used it, right? You are too skilled in using it. I, a former cow and horse, felt as if I had returned to my previous life and listened to the boss's empty promises. Okay, disband. Orochimaru was very satisfied with the mental state of the cows and horses. He announced the disbandment, walked off the podium and left. Nara Shintaku followed him. But before leaving, he noticed Mikoto's look. The eyes met. The secret code matched. At night. In Nara's room, Mikoto was wearing a long suspender skirt, revealing a pair of long, white, straight legs, and stood in front of Nara. She had her hands behind her back, and her face was full of smiles. She accepted Nara's admiration with open eyes. The long skirt was close to her body, outlining her graceful curves. Her slender waist seemed like a willow in the wind, as if it would bend at the next moment, but it stubbornly supported the round fruit. Mikoto was a little shy, but she did not avoid Nara's gaze. She sat in Nara's arms, breathing like orchids, and whispered, I have reduced the intensity of my practice since half a year ago. In addition, I use lotion every day. The calluses on my palms, elbows, knees, and other places have been removed, leaving only a smooth surface. Nara's expression moved. He stretched out his hands, his expression meticulous. As if exploring a crucial topic, very carefully and seriously. The next day. Mikoto quietly left Nara's room and returned to her own place. She was supposed to start the equation calculation work, but she couldn't be absent. And she applied to quit the technical department in the afternoon. The first person to quit has appeared. Is someone finally unable to hold on? Ms. Mikoto, you really lack some talent. The workload of the third group is even greater. There is no way, not everyone can stay in the technical development department. Yes, I'm afraid more people will quit next. The students shook their heads and sighed, showing a look of grief. Episode 70, the operation is completed. 3 months is really too slow, no one knows. Mikoto quit because she had accomplished her goal. Her original goal was Nara Shintaku. Now that she has successfully come to Nara Shintaku's side, she is still staying in the technical department to study the materials. Isn't that asking for trouble? Mikoto left the technical department with Yakura and Luosha. The 2 captives were transferred to the Umbu prison in Konoha. More than a month later. 7 trainees in the technical development department quit one after another. They all couldn't stand the intensity of the project and chose to give up. Only 7 of the first 15 trainees remained. Half of them chose to quit. However, Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru didn't care about these things. They didn't expect all 15 people to stay. It would be great if 3 or 5 of them passed. It's not just one batch of trainees. The 2 are focusing on the in-depth development of the life shell technique. Organ creation. Among all organs, the heart is the simplest. The heart is just a big muscle. As long as the structural problem is solved and the size of the valve is adjusted, a qualified heart can be made. I feel more and more that I am becoming inhuman, Shintaku. Inhuman does not mean inhuman. Oh? This statement is interesting. Can you explain it in detail? It's very simple. When you were born, except for the body shape of a human, other things, such as name, identity, interpersonal relationship, social status, etc., are all acquired. Since they are acquired things, they can be discarded at will. What is the role of the appendix, Shintaku? No role. No role? Yes, don't think that the human body is perfect. The principle of evolution of life is that it is enough. As long as it does not affect reproduction, it doesn't matter if there are 10 more redundancies. Hiss, the inside of the liver and kidneys is too complicated, various glands and channels. Grasp the big and let go of the small, as long as it can be used. So casual, Shintaku? Otherwise, the human body is a very casual system. As long as it can run, don't worry too much about other things. 2 months passed in a flash. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru stayed in the laboratory, working day and night, and developed a complete internal organ creation technique. Including but not limited to the stomach, heart, large and small intestines, bladder, lung lobes, liver, kidneys, thyroid, pancreas, spleen, eyes, nose, tongue, etc. Even the brain. They can create it out of thin air. In other words, the yin-yang escape technique of the 2 has reached the amazing height of creating humans. This, life shell creation technique, can be declared a success. The two immediately summoned the remaining students in the technical department. In the conference room, Obairu yawned and sat in his seat with a sleepy expression. The yin-yang escape technique to create a complete limb is too much work. Even if you take energy potions every day, you can't bear it. Minato, I have completed half of the scheduled content. When the 3 months are up, I should not be able to complete the task. Hearing this, Minato raised his tired face, revealing big dark circles under his eyes, and smiled bitterly. You have at least completed half, I only have a quarter. So little? Hearing this, alas, I overestimated myself. Minato smiled bitterly and said, I thought it was very simple, but when I did it, I found that I lacked too much knowledge, and half of my time was spent on cramming knowledge. As soon as these words came out, other students also nodded. Yes, the project requires too much knowledge. If you don't read books, you can't do it at all. I can only advance 1% of the progress by reading 3 or 5 books now. I am reading books in my dreams. In 3 months, I am afraid I can't even do a quarter. Me too. Everyone complained bitterly. Everyone had big dark circles under their eyes and looked tired. Is that so? Baliohu nodded, but he was puzzled. How long does it take to read? Didn't we finish reading all the books we needed to read in the first half of the project? Why are you still reading now? Fortunately, Baliohu didn't ask this question. Otherwise, these students would be so depressed that they would vomit blood. Not everyone is like you, with excellent research talent, okay? Meg. At this time, footsteps were heard outside the conference room. All the students immediately shut up, straightened their backs, and sat up. The door was pushed open. Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru walked in. Everyone, I have good news for you. Orochimaru walked up to the podium with a smile and said, the life shell creation technique has passed the village's approval, and the first human body reattachment surgery will begin in Konoha Hospital in 5 days. So soon? The students were shocked. Master Orochimaru, didn't you say it would take 3 months? Minato raised his hand to ask. Haruha nodded and said, yes, it's only been 2 months now. Of course it's because Shintaku and I have completed the organ creation technique and successfully passed the animal experiment. Orochimaru said with a smile. Wow. It was like a stone that caused 1,000 waves. This sentence made all the students open their eyes in surprise and show an expression of disbelief. It's already completed? And passed the animal experiment. This is too fast. No wonder Shintaku said that 3 months was considered slow at the beginning. What should we do then? The students couldn't help but get anxious. They can't keep up with the progress of Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru. The originally scheduled 3 months are already behind schedule, and now the task has been completed 2 months ahead of schedule. What should these students do? Don't worry. Orochimaru waved his hand and said with a smile, Mitaku and I didn't expect you to complete all the projects from the beginning. After all, you lack the foundation. If you can complete 10%, you will be qualified. But 10% can only be a junior researcher. Intermediate researchers need half, senior researchers need 100%, and the research team leader needs to master at least 50% of the progress of the other 2 projects. Everyone looked enlightened. There are 3 projects in the life shell creation technique. For any project, completing 10% is a junior researcher, half is an intermediate researcher, and 100% is a senior researcher. And on the basis of 100%, if the progress of the other 2 projects reaches half, you can serve as a research team leader. Great, I can stay. If it's 1/10, I can still do it if I grit my teeth. Fortunately I persevered. It's a pity for those who quit. The students breathed a sigh of relief, and their faces showed a look of relief. Many people who quit had the hope of completing 1/10 of the progress, which would reach the standard of junior researchers and allow them to stay. But they lost confidence and failed to persevere. Master Orochimaru, do we need to participate in the follow-up surgery in 5 days? Minato asked again. The other students also looked at Orochimaru after hearing this. Yes. Orochimaru nodded and said, because of the war, there is no 3 months for you to learn slowly, you can only learn while doing. You people will be the main force of the follow-up surgery. Hiroko will be the general person in charge. These words were spoken. The students' hearts were aroused. Will they be the main force in the follow-up surgery? What an honor and benefit. According to statistics, the disability risk of ninjas is as high as 80%. 80% of the ninjas in the village want to be in their hands. For this reason alone, they will definitely enjoy a good life in the second half of their lives. I am the general manager? Obairu was excited but also a little uneasy, muttering, can I really do it? He couldn't help but look at Nara next to him. Nara noticed his gaze and gave him an encouraging look. Great. Mitaku-kun thinks I can do it. Obairu immediately made up his mind and surged with passion. I must do it well. I can't let Mitaku-kun down. Come on, Obairu. But I don't know. Nara saw his excited look and nodded with satisfaction, thinking, very good, the burden has been thrown away smoothly. In his and Orochimaru's view, helping people with follow-up surgery is a complete burden. How can they have so much time? Hurry up and train a group of worker ants, throw away the burden, and save time to research new projects. During these 5 days, take a good rest. Orochimaru raised his hand and pressed it to calm the students down. He smiled and said, see you in 5 days. Yes, Master Orochimaru, 7, Hokage Building. Mission Management Class. A male ninja who lost his right leg was handling documents with a numb expression. Since he became disabled, he is retired from the front line. The speed of body flicker technique that he was once proud of could no longer be used. Even climbing trees and treading water could not be done. It's good to do clerical work. At least it's safe. You don't have to worry about dying on a mission. Kotaro whispered to himself, comforting himself. This is a lie. Because the restless and unwilling heart needs to be comforted. No middle-aged ninja wants to linger on. Dying on the battlefield is the best destination. But, what can I do besides complaining? Kotaro sighed, packed up the documents on the table, and prepared to go off work. He supported himself on the table with both hands, and stood up with one foot. Buy a bottle of wine on the way back. Kotaro muttered. He was ready to drink to relieve his sorrow as usual. Suddenly, he stopped. Because a ninja wearing an animal mask walked into the office, cast a look at him, and made a hoarse and indistinguishable voice, Chunin Kotaro? Yes, what's the matter? Kotaro asked. The 3rd generation wants to see you, follow me. Umbu said. Yes. Kotaro's face became serious, and he followed without asking any questions. The two walked into the Hokage's office inside. The 3rd Hokage's face was full of smiles. When he saw Kotaro for the first time, he smiled and said, Kotaro, have you ever thought about recovering your lost right leg? Ah? Kotaro was stunned. 5 days later. In a ward of Konoha Hospital. A group of ninjas and elite jonin waited with astonishment on their faces. They received an invitation. It was said that Nara Shintaku and Orochimaru had developed a limb reattachment technique that could restore disabled ninjas to healthy limbs. This was incredible to them. Limb reattachment, can it really be done? Ties. If it's true, this technique is worth a fortune. Yes, the career life of ninjas can be greatly extended. It can save many tragic families. Everyone couldn't believe it, but they hoped it was true. At the same time, Tsunade and Uchiha Makoto stood together in the crowd and talked in a low voice. Sister Tsunade, do you think the continuation of technique is really possible? Uchiha Makoto asked in a low voice. Tsunade glanced at Makoto. She had a good impression of this girl who came over recently. Although she was born in the Uchiha clan, she did not have the disadvantage of arrogance. Instead, she had excellent emotional intelligence and personality, and it was very comfortable to get along with her. She was even willing to call her sister. Hearing Makoto's question, Tsunade couldn't help laughing. You came from the technical development department and personally participated in the research of this technique. You ask me? Haha, I couldn't hold on halfway and quit. Makoto smiled awkwardly. After completing her goal, she couldn't wait to quit the technical department. If it wasn't for the purpose of snatching a man, why would she bother to read so many difficult books every day? 0. She would rather suffer from secret teaching every day than continue to do scientific research. You, really? Tsunade shook her head and laughed, pointed at Makoto affectionately with her finger, and said, I think it's very likely. Oh? Why? Makoto widened her eyes curiously. Tsunade's tone was too firm. It seemed that he trusted this technique very much. Because there is such a thing as transplantation in medical ninjutsu, but it has not been promoted because of the problem of rejection. Tsunade thought and replied, if it was those two people. No, if it was Shintaku, I think he would be able to solve this problem. While speaking, Tsunade's eyes sparkled and she smiled. Makoto was secretly shocked. If she hadn't accepted it herself, she would never have believed that even Tsunade was one of Nara's harem. This workload is too much. Makoto was secretly distressed. At that time, she made a bold statement that she could help Nara stabilize the rear. But in fact, when she did it, she found that it was too difficult. Let alone just Tsunade's sister. No offense, this sister-brother relationship with a 20-year age difference is difficult to break through the secular gaze and get together. But Tsunade is not the only one. But Tsunade's sister is hard on the outside but soft on the inside. She can handle it when the time comes if she is strong. Makoto thought of the amazing length and hardness of those nights of secret teaching. She couldn't help swallowing. It's been a long time since I suffered. At the same time, in the distance, the third Hokage and Jiraiya was also discussing in a low voice. Are you not optimistic, Jiraiya? Asked the chief Hokage. It's not that I don't believe in Shintaku and Orochimaru, it's just that it's hard not to doubt. Jiraiya smiled bitterly and said, even the immortals of the three holy lands can't do this. It took Shintaku and Orochimaru more than half a year to get it done. That doesn't sound reliable. Hearing this, the third Hokage couldn't help but look at his disciple. The three holy lands? Immortals? Do you think those guys are too powerful? The third Hokage hesitated for a long time, but still didn't say anything harsh, just said, we'll know when we see it later. I believe Shintaku and Orochimaru will choose to display it publicly only if they are sure. 11. This disciple of his is almost obsessed with the great Toad Sage. There's no way to say it. That's right, they have at least achieved some results. Jiraiya nodded. He didn't notice the complicated look in his teacher's eyes when he looked at him. Everyone waited for a while. Then they saw today's technique recipient, Yutaru Kotaro, enter the venue. He walked in slowly with his prosthetic limbs. Facing the gazes of the crowd, Kotaro was a little timid. There were big shots in the venue that he couldn't afford to offend. Any one of them was a well-known elite jonin. But thinking of his mission, Kotaro took a deep breath and regained his courage. Can I regain my right leg? If you can really do it, that would be great. No, I don't ask for it to be completely done, even if I can restore half of my previous mobility, it's enough. Kotaro thought secretly. I met the third Hokage yesterday and he said that there was a newly developed technique that could make him healthy again. Kotaro was really scared.